The icy wind cut through the barren land, making every step feel heavier than the last. The human, Jaren, trudged across the frozen wasteland, carrying a small canister of water on his back. He had been traveling for days, searching for anything that could help his village survive. The planet they had settled on was unforgiving, and supplies were running low. Jaren's breath came out in clouds, and his fingers were numb. Suddenly, a strange shadow moved across the snow ahead of him. He froze. At first, he thought it was another traveler, but the shape was too unusual, too large, too alien. The creature stumbled and fell into the snow. Jaren's heart raced as he got closer. Its scales glistened like metal in the pale sunlight, and its eyes were wide with pain. Yes, it was a female warrior of another world, struggled to move, her strength fading with each breath. Jaren knew that water was precious. Every drop counted. But seeing her suffering, something inside him shifted. Without thinking, he pulled out his canister. "Take it," he said quietly, holding it out. The alien stared at him, confusion and shock flashing in her eyes. Her kind never expected kindness from humans, especially not from a stranger on a harsh, frozen world. Jaren tilted the canister toward her. Hesitation. Suspicion. Then, finally, she drank. Each gulp seemed to give her strength, and her scales shimmered brighter. Her eyes softened as she looked at him. The wind howled around them, but in that moment, a strange connection formed. He could feel her gratitude, even if he couldn't understand her language. He watched as she struggled to stand, leaning on him for support. Her movements were graceful, yet powerful, a warrior even in weakness. Why would you help me?" she finally whispered, her voice strange and melodic, yet somehow understandable. Jaren shook his head. "Because I could," he said simply. "No one should suffer alone." The alien warrior's gaze lingered on him, studying his face, as if trying to understand why a human would act this way. In her world, strength was survival, and trust was earned with blood and battle. Yet here was a human, offering life without demand, without fear. For the first time, she felt something she had never felt before: curiosity. And maybe, hope. Suddenly, a distant roar echoed through the frozen plains. Jaren tensed. He had no idea what was coming, but he knew danger was near. The warrior's ears twitched, and her body stiffened. Even in her weakened state, she was ready to fight. "Stay behind me," Jaren said, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. She nodded slowly, her trust growing with every second they stood together. Whatever was coming, they would face it, together. The wind howled louder. Shadows moved across the snow. And in that frozen wasteland, two beings from different worlds began an unlikely bond, one that could change everything. Jaren didn't know it yet, but the moment he gave her water, he had altered her world forever. And the first step of a journey neither of them would ever forget had begun. The roar grew louder, shaking the frozen ground beneath their feet. Jaren's heart pounded as he scanned the horizon. Jagged shadows twisted in the blinding snowstorm. Whatever was coming, it wasn't human. He could feel it in his bones. This was something alive, something dangerous. The alien warrior steadied herself, her hand brushing against a strange metallic sheath on her side. She had recovered strength quickly, faster than Jaren expected. Her eyes, once wary, now glowed with a fierce intensity. It was clear, she was a fighter, and she was ready. "Stay close," Jaren warned, gripping a sharpened ice pick like a weapon. She didn't answer, only nodded. Communication was difficult, but trust was forming, silent yet undeniable. Suddenly, the shadows lunged. Dozens of dark, spiky creatures erupted from the snow. They moved as one, vicious and fast, teeth and claws glinting. Jaren froze for a split second, then acted. He swung his ice pick with precision, feeling adrenaline surge through him. The alien warrior leapt with terrifying speed, her movements fluid and lethal. Claws met claws, metal met scales, and snow sprayed in every direction. Jaren watched in awe. She was not just a warrior, she was a force of nature. But even her power had limits. One of the creatures grabbed her leg, dragging her toward the icy chasm that yawned below. Without thinking, Jaren plunged forward, catching her just in time. They stumbled together, gasping, hearts racing. "I saved you," he said, breathless. She looked at him, no words, only a flash of something deeper in her eyes. Gratitude? Recognition? Or the spark of something else entirely? The creatures circled them again, more cunning this time. Jaren realized that running wasn't an option. They had to fight, or die. His mind raced. How could a human survive against these predators? And yet, somehow, with the alien warrior at his side, he felt alive, powerful, unstoppable. Snow whipped across their faces. The roar returned, louder, closer. It was bigger. Something monstrous was approaching, something that made the other creatures scatter in fear. Jaren swallowed hard. Whatever it was, it would test both him and the alien warrior like never before. And in that frozen wasteland, amidst the wind, snow, and fear, a human and an alien began to fight together. Not just for survival, but for something far greater: trust, courage, and a bond that could change the fate of their worlds. For Jaren, giving her water was just the beginning. Now, he realized, every choice he made could mean life, or death, for both of them. The wind shrieked like a living thing across the frozen plains. Jaren's teeth chattered, but he barely noticed. His eyes were locked on the massive shadow moving toward them. The ground trembled beneath its weight, and even the alien warrior's glowing eyes widened in fear. "What is that?" Jaren muttered under his breath. She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Her body tensed, every muscle ready, every instinct screaming, this was no ordinary enemy. The monstrous shape emerged from the blizzard, a towering beast, scales darker than the night sky, claws that could tear through metal, and a roar that shook the air like an explosion. Its eyes, cold and merciless, locked onto them. This was a predator the size of a building, a force of nature that did not negotiate, did not retreat. Jaren swallowed hard. He knew running wasn't an option. The alien warrior stepped forward, her stance bold and unyielding. She hissed in a language Jaren could not understand, but the meaning was clear: fight or die. The beast lunged. Snow exploded around them. The alien warrior moved with breathtaking speed, striking claws into the creature's side, dodging crushing blows. Jaren gritted his teeth and plunged his ice pick into the beast's leg. It roared in pain, shaking him violently, but he held on. They were a team now, human and alien, instinct and courage fused into one. Every moment demanded precision, every heartbeat could be their last. Jaren marveled at her strength, at the way she fought not just with her body but with her mind, predicting every move the beast would make. But even together, they were pushed to the limit. The beast roared again, louder, and a freezing gust of wind threw Jaren off balance. The alien warrior slid across the snow and almost fell, but Jaren lunged, catching her. In that moment, their eyes met, trust, understanding, and an unspoken promise of survival passed between them. Jaren realized something powerful: humans may be fragile compared to the creatures of this world, but courage, quick thinking, and heart could match even the strongest foes. He took a deep breath and prepared for the next strike. The beast would not fall easily. And if it did, the cost might be more than he, or the alien warrior, could bear. The blizzard swirled around them, snow and shadows merging into a terrifying dance of life and death. Every second stretched endlessly, and Jaren knew one thing: this fight would define them both. It would test the limits of human courage, alien strength, and the bond they had begun to form. As the beast lunged again, Jaren clenched his jaw and whispered under his breath, "We survive, together." And in that frozen wasteland, amidst the roar of the impossible, a human and an alien warrior became more than allies, they became legends in the making. The blizzard roared like a living beast, but it was nothing compared to the colossal creature standing before them. Snow swirled in thick clouds, hiding its massive form, yet its presence pressed down on Jaren and the alien warrior like a weight of doom. Every instinct screamed danger, but retreat was impossible. Jaren's fingers gripped the ice pick until they bled. The alien warrior's eyes glowed brighter, reflecting the storm and her fierce determination. Together, they were a fragile pair in a frozen wasteland filled with death, but together, they were unstoppable. Suddenly, the beast lunged from the white haze, faster than they could react. Its claws cut through the snow, sending shards flying like bullets. Jaren barely dodged, but the alien warrior met it head-on, her claws striking metal and scales with deadly precision. Yet the creature was relentless, stronger, smarter than anything they had faced before. Then, a piercing screech split the air. Jaren's head snapped up. From the shadows, smaller, faster creatures swarmed toward them. The fight had become a trap, a deadly circle of predators designed to crush anything that dared stand against them. "Move," the alien warrior hissed, pulling Jaren behind a ridge of ice. They crouched, hearts pounding, breath freezing in the storm. Jaren realized this was no ordinary hunt, they were being tested, pushed to the absolute limit. Every decision could mean life or death. But something inside him surged, a spark of human courage. He scanned the battlefield, spotting a weak point in the massive beast's armor-like scales. "There," he shouted, pointing. The alien warrior's eyes met his, understanding flashing instantly. Without hesitation, she leapt forward, agile and lethal, while Jaren charged from the side. Together, human and alien struck with perfect timing. The beast roared, staggering, its massive form shaking the ground. Yet victory was still uncertain, the smaller creatures circled, waiting for the perfect moment to attack. In that frozen wasteland, amidst howling wind and blinding snow, Jaren realized something powerful: courage was contagious. The alien warrior's strength inspired him, and his determination fueled her. They were more than allies, they were a force that could challenge even the deadliest horrors of this planet. And as the storm raged around them, one thought burned in Jaren's mind: survival wasn't just about fighting, it was about trust, unity, and the human spirit's unbreakable will. The battle was far from over. Shadows moved. Snow fell harder. The unknown waited, ready to strike. But for the first time, Jaren felt something he had never felt before: hope. The ground trembled beneath Jaren's boots, and the wind roared with a fury he had never felt before. The massive beast, now bleeding from their combined attack, let out a deafening roar that shook the ice beneath them. But it was not alone. The smaller creatures, dozens of them, moved like shadows around the perimeter, circling with deadly precision. Jaren's heart pounded in his chest. Every muscle screamed to run, but he knew they could not escape. They had to fight. Survival was no longer a choice, it was a test of will, skill, and courage. The alien warrior's eyes glowed, reflecting both fear and determination. She shifted, preparing to strike. Jaren, feeling the weight of the moment, tightened his grip on his ice pick. He realized something astonishing: he was not afraid, not truly. His mind was sharp, his instincts alive. With her by his side, he felt something impossible: strength beyond human limits. Suddenly, the beast lunged with terrifying speed, knocking Jaren off his feet. Pain shot through his side, but before he could fall, the alien warrior grabbed him, pulling him out of harm's way with a strength that defied belief. They tumbled across the ice, landing in a shallow crevice. "Hold on," she hissed, her voice low and commanding. Her hands were firm on his shoulders. He nodded, adrenaline flooding his veins. Together, they rose, circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The smaller creatures attacked next, faster than Jaren could track. He swung wildly, but she moved with lethal grace, taking down each one with precision. Yet the massive beast was recovering. Its eyes burned like molten metal, and it began to rise again, larger and angrier than before. Jaren's mind raced. He could see one opening, a vulnerable spot under its jaw. "Now," he shouted, pointing. The alien warrior leapt, claws extended, striking the beast with a scream that echoed through the frozen plains. Jaren followed, plunging his pick into the same weak point. The beast howled, staggering, snow and ice falling from its massive form. But just as they thought they had the upper hand, the ground beneath them cracked. A deep, dark fissure spread rapidly, swallowing everything in its path. Jaren's heart stopped. "Jump!" the alien warrior shouted. They leapt together, barely clearing the widening chasm as the ice beneath them shattered with a thunderous roar. The smaller creatures screamed and vanished into the abyss. The massive beast howled in fury, trapped below, but not defeated. Breathless, battered, and frozen, Jaren looked at the alien warrior. Their eyes met, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them: trust, respect, and an unbreakable bond forged in the fires of battle. But even as relief washed over him, a chilling thought struck: this was not over. The storm raged, the frozen wasteland was alive with danger, and bigger threats lurked just beyond the horizon. Jaren clenched his fists. Whatever came next, he knew one thing: they would face it together, or not at all. The icy wind cut through their armor like knives. Jaren's muscles ached, his body battered from the previous battle, yet he refused to stop. The alien warrior's eyes scanned the horizon, glowing like twin beacons in the blizzard. Something bigger, more terrifying than the beast below, was approaching. Something that could shatter everything they had fought for. Suddenly, the snow parted, and a shadow darker than night loomed above them. It moved with unnatural speed, and the ground trembled beneath its weight. Jaren's heart raced. This was no ordinary predator, it was a force of destruction, a nightmare born from the depths of this frozen world. The alien warrior's gaze hardened. "We cannot fight it head-on," she hissed, her voice sharp, commanding. Jaren nodded. He trusted her instincts, they had saved his life more than once. Together, they would have to be smarter, faster, sharper. The shadow descended. Massive wings spread, whipping the wind into a violent storm. Its eyes burned like molten fire, scanning for prey. Jaren could see the intelligence behind them, not mindless hunger, but cunning, strategy, and pure malice. The alien warrior lunged first, moving with lightning speed, claws slicing through ice and snow. Jaren followed, dodging massive talons, swinging his pick with precision, striking where her claws could not reach. They were a storm of skill and courage, working in perfect harmony, yet the creature adapted faster than they could react. A sudden roar split the air, a terrifying echo that shook the ice around them. Jaren felt the ground crack beneath his feet. Chasms opened, swallowing snow, rocks, and smaller predators alike. The world itself seemed to rise against them. "Jump!" the alien warrior shouted, grabbing his arm. They leapt over a widening fissure as the creature slammed down where they had stood seconds ago. The ice shattered in a deafening roar. Landing hard, Jaren looked at her, awe mixing with fear. Her body glistened with frost, her eyes locked on the approaching terror. They were exhausted, bleeding, battered, but alive. For now. The shadow circled, its wings blotting out the weak sunlight. It was intelligent, patient, and deadly. Jaren realized that surviving this battle would require more than courage, it would demand strategy, trust, and the very essence of human ingenuity. As the wind howled and the creature prepared to strike again, the bond between human and alien warrior had never been stronger. One thing was clear: the next move could either save them, or end everything. And in the frozen wasteland, where death and survival danced hand in hand, Jaren understood something extraordinary: humans could face monsters no one else could, and together, they could change the fate of worlds. The storm raged harder than ever, snow and ice whipping around them in blinding chaos. Jaren's body was exhausted, every muscle screaming, every breath burning in his lungs. The massive predator hovered above, wings slicing through the wind, its molten eyes fixed on them like death incarnate. The alien warrior crouched beside him, claws ready, muscles tense. They shared a look, no words were needed. They had fought together, survived together, and now, they would face the ultimate test together. Suddenly, the creature dove. Jaren rolled to the side, barely avoiding its crushing talons. The ground trembled violently as the impact sent snow and ice flying. The alien warrior struck with lightning precision, her claws raking across the beast's armored scales. Yet it roared, not in pain, but in fury, adapting with frightening intelligence. Jaren's mind raced. He remembered a weak point he had noticed earlier, a glowing fissure under its chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. There, he shouted. Without hesitation, the alien warrior leapt, her claws aimed perfectly, while Jaren plunged his ice pick deep into the fissure. The beast screamed, a sound that shook the frozen plains like an avalanche. It thrashed, wings beating violently, sending snow and debris flying in all directions. But slowly, with a final, deafening roar, it collapsed, defeated. Silence fell. The blizzard seemed to pause, as if the world itself was catching its breath. Jaren sank to his knees, bloodied and trembling, and the alien warrior dropped beside him. She looked at him, her eyes softening, not the warrior's cold precision, but something almost human, gratitude, respect, and something deeper, unspoken. "You saved me," she whispered in her melodic tongue. Jaren shook his head. "No, we saved each other," he replied simply. Around them, the frozen wasteland was quiet once more. Snow drifted gently over the battlefield, covering scars left by the monstrous fight. They had survived what no one else could. They had faced the impossible, and endured. For Jaren, giving her water had been a simple act. But that small choice had ignited something extraordinary, a bond between human and alien that neither world would ever forget. Her world had been changed forever, and his had too. Together, battered but unbroken, they looked to the horizon. The storm had passed, but their journey was far from over. They had discovered something incredible: courage, trust, and the limitless power of the human spirit. In the frozen plains of a hostile world, one act of kindness had grown into a legend. And for the first time, both human and alien understood something universal. Sometimes, survival was not about strength alone, but about the heart that refused to give up. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear: wherever the path led, they would face it together.